What's going on, everyone? This is Mitch with SC Weather here to give you a little noon to early afternoon update on what's going on with the weather here in the immediate southeast area. I'm talking about Alabama, Georgia, northern Florida, South Carolina, and potentially North Carolina. So we're going to kind of talk about what's going on right now. If you watch this a little bit later, I'm kind of filming this around the 12:15 range. But, you know, things are going to be changing at whatever point you watch this. But we're at the point now where there's basically a line of storms draped over South Georgia into North Florida. So we're going to see what that does, but we're going to watch for the development for more storms into Alabama and Georgia as we get into later this afternoon and evening. So if you guys have not subscribed, definitely subscribe. Like the video. It's much appreciated, and y'all's support is awesome. So let's get going with this here. We're going to look at this and check it out. This is Storm Prediction Center. This is all available online, but this is basically the breakdown of what's going on right now, observations going on right now. So right up here in North Carolina, South Carolina, you have pretty much stable conditions. Temperatures in the 60s, even the 40s in some areas. You have a CAD basically situated right into here, like Asheville, sitting at 46 degrees around midday. So very impressive. But you get down here, it's in the 80s in Florida, you know, where areas where this line has not moved through. Obviously, when this line moves through, you got more cool, rain-cooled air. But if you check out over here in Alabama and even Georgia, observations just south and around Montgomery, Alabama, temperatures are starting to rise again. The atmosphere is recovering from the early morning storms that moved through, which was this. And dew points are beginning to rise. You got dew points getting into the mid to upper 60s. Temperatures are getting close to 80 here in extreme southern areas of Alabama. And it's the same if you go a little further north near Birmingham. Dew points are starting to get into the low 60s. And even here in areas of Georgia, if you live well south of Atlanta, for instance, near Columbus and south, basically southwest Georgia, the storms have moved through. But if you begin to see clearing in this area right here, if you live in this area right here, that is not a good sign. That means the atmosphere is recovering, and you basically are getting more ingredients and coming together for severe weather. So we look here and we look at some surface-based CAPE. Notice it's pretty stable up here. You have CAPE values well below 1,000, but you notice this is beginning to build more northeast as the atmosphere is recovering. So you might get a brief spike up here in Alabama into Georgia of CAPE values to 1 to 2,000 surface-based CAPE. So that's plenty enough of CAPE for basically storm development and convective energy. So we have to really watch this. So we'll take a look at radar scope, what's going on here. If you live basically around and I don't really have this in motion here, but basically in South Carolina, you just have steady rain, even way down here in southern areas of South Carolina where it's a little bit warmer, the atmosphere is a little bit better. It's just a steady rain. For instance, I'm located here in Columbia, South Carolina, and it's just a steady rain in the 60s. So you look over here, let's type in Tallahassee and get to their area right here. It's a little bit different story. You actually have a tornado warning here in South Georgia. But this is a line, and it's just kind of moving very slowly here. Let's try to get this in motion here. It's dumping a lot of rainfall. It's dumping hail. So this is a pretty intense line of storms, and the directional flow of this, it's not really, it's basically from west to east. Now, if there's any outflows down here, you have redevelopment southward, and this will eventually begin to move a little bit more south. But this will continue going, and you'll have an ongoing severe weather threat if you live in the Tallahassee area, close to Jacksonville, and areas in southeast Georgia. You go back here, and you have more development forming. But one thing I want to look at is you go up into Alabama, where you have some clearing. The storms have moved on through. If this would update and upload for us, here we go. Not a whole lot going on right here, but this is the area, Montgomery and southward, and you have basically the warm front draping around this area somewhere with a cold front back here to the west, and you have the atmosphere recovering. So you have to watch out for any individual cells that develop. And even as you get into middle to South Georgia, you just saw Columbia. The rain's about to get out of here already. It's dropping a quick 1/4 to 1/2 inch of rain, and then there's going to be a lull. And what happens between that is really up in the air. So we're really watching this area right into here, into central and southern Alabama, and to central and southern Georgia for development. Will they hang tight and really get going into South Carolina? If they do, it'll be later in the evening hours. So definitely don't let your guard down if you're in South Carolina. So we'll jump back into here. We'll look at the basically the latest HRRR model here. And notice we get into early afternoon. We're getting into around the, what time is this? This is around the 3 to 4 p.m. range. Notice you have redevelopment here. So if any of these cells, and it doesn't necessarily have to either, if any of these cells really get going here and kind of get on its own, you have to watch out for these can produce tornadoes. Notice here with this line of storms, and we just showed you where it is, watch out Savannah. These storms can begin to intensify, and Savannah can get some nasty weather a little later. So you get into basically the early to mid-afternoon hours, and you get the break in South Carolina. It stops raining, but it's not over, I don't think. Basically, you get lines, maybe a line, maybe discrete cells that really get going here in Alabama and Georgia, and you have to watch out for these. Check out these little storms right here. It's a little line here, but they look individual in nature. They look discrete. So it keeps going, and at this point, it's about 7 to 8 p.m. tonight, and you have more storms moving into central South Carolina, southern South Carolina, maybe even the upstate. I think the threat for severe weather in this area is not very high because you have basically a wedge of cool air that's stabilizing the atmosphere. But these little cells right here, I'm actually a little worried that we have to run the risk of severe weather even as we get into the overnight hours. So it's an interesting setup to watch, and it keeps going here. Like, look at this little cell right here in just south of Columbia showing up around, I don't know, what is this, 2 o'clock in the morning? 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. So, you know, it doesn't mean that's going to happen, but that's got a little hook in nature to it. So this is a look. Basically, this is telling us that this is the main energy pulling through right here, but you have to watch for redevelopment right into here as the atmosphere begins to destabilize again, and it gets primed for severe storms. You look at dew points. Look how they're recovering. They're going to recover as we get into late into the afternoon hours. According to the HRRR model, you have dew points getting into the 70s around Montgomery. They're climbing into the 60s into Atlanta, and even in central Alabama, all the way into northern Alabama, heck, all the way into Tennessee. Dew points will get into the 60s across everywhere, but you can look at the stable air. This is basically a CAD. You got cool air trapped east of the mountains. So in this area right here, I don't expect any severe weather, but be careful with this boundary right here. If you can get a storm to move into this boundary meaning basically the cutoff between more stable and not stable air, where you have a little bit of a difference in wind flow, this could cause more spin of thunderstorms. So you have to watch out this area right here. But look at all the dew points rising in the 60s and even 70s. So, and then you get the cold front coming in behind with more stable air. So you look right here, look temperatures. Temperatures don't get really high anywhere. They might climb into the 80s in areas of Alabama, but you really can tell where the stable area is here. Greenville, Spartanburg, and areas up there, you guys might be stuck in the 50s all day. Just a raw day. It's going to feel kind of like winter. You look at supercell composite parameter. Notice it climbs here, getting to early to late afternoon here in Alabama, Montgomery, Alabama, for instance, even maybe up to Birmingham, and then it begins to get into Georgia. You can check out what the boundary is, what more stable air is, but be careful. So you look at Cape. Cape builds here, where the atmosphere begins to basically recover. Cape builds into the 2,000 to 2,500 joules per kilogram, so you need to watch out here. Because I don't think we're done with the severe weather. Significant tornado parameter doesn't look that high because you're kind of lacking low-level shear. But still, you got to watch out for these individual cells that pop off later today. But that's all I got, guys. Definitely be weather aware. Just because it stops raining at your location, just because the sun comes out, especially in that situation, that does not mean that we're done with the severe weather. I forgot to make these images small for you guys, but thank y'all for tuning in. I might try to get out and go storm chasing this afternoon. I have to sell a car here in about an hour. It's a little later than I wanted it to be. I would have loved to already been on the road, but it is what it is. Thank y'all for tuning in. Y'all have a blessed day and stay safe. Stay weather aware.